There has been a huge lack of educational content in Blitz recently, so in order to fix that, today I will show you my craziest tips, some of which you have probably never heard before, in order to become a much better player at this game. You can see the timestamps on the screen right now, and with that said, let's begin. Before you start playing the game, you need to make sure that it's set up properly. So, in terms of graphics, there are a couple of things you need to keep in mind. First of all, your effects quality should be either on ultra low or low, since if you have it on high, it literally gives you a disadvantage, because there will be a lot of exhaust smoke coming out of that tanks. Also, fog quality can be pretty annoying, so I like keeping it on low as well. Flora quality is something which I like to turn off. In any case, please disable grass in sniper mode, because this will make a huge difference. As for controls, I recommend getting used to lower sensitivity in case you play on PC, and I always recommend setting your sensitivity lower in sniper mode than in arcade mode. You can see all of my mouse settings right here on the screen, and also if you play on an iPad, I recommend setting your sensitivity to 85%, since I think that's the sweet spot. In case you play on PC and have a mouse with a functional scroll wheel, I recommend using manual aim. However, if your mouse is bad, then you might be better off using automatic zoom. As a beginner, you should definitely avoid playing tanks with weak armor such as the Leo 1 or the Grilla 15, and focus on playing heavy tanks like the 60TP, IS-7 or the E100 instead. If you want to get better at the game, you can also play medium tanks like the Progetto 65 or the E50M. The best equipment choices highly depend on the tank that you are playing. However, calibrated shells and refined gun have got a massive buff recently, so in case you are struggling with hitting and penetrating your shots, I highly recommend using these two equipment pieces. In case you have two special consumables in your tank, such as adrenaline and tungsten shells, I recommend using consumable delivery system together with cooldown boosters. However, if you have adrenaline with two repair kits, high-end consumables might be the way to go, since your adrenaline will almost last 30 seconds, which is kinda crazy if you think about it. If you wanna know what equipment I use on a specific tank, then feel free to ask me in one of my live streams. Also, if you are enjoying the video so far, make sure to smash like and smash subscribe so we can reach 2k subs by the end of the summer. Now comes the juicy part, aka the gameplay tips. The first one is that you should completely forget about the existence of medium flanks and heavy flanks, because it's 2014 advice that people still follow to this day.
Destroyers usually do go into certain positions, and they always go into certain positions.
And it's something that is limiting all of your average damage to below 3000. People like me who are doing 4000 average damage in tier 10 are not afraid of being creative and taking positions which allow us to farm damage for free. For example, in this situation, the enemy team has an STB-1 and I'm playing a Leo 1 on Castilla. There is no way I'm going to the hill to try to fight an STB-1 that's playing hull down against me with a tank that has zero armor. So instead, I'm playing here in the middle just to see if I can find some heavy tanks that I can farm for free. And guess what? There's an E75 crossing that I can literally farm without him being able to do anything against it. And I would literally be willing to go to the heavy flank on Himmelsdorf or the A-cap on Canal with my medium tanks, just because it would give me more damage than fighting other mediums hull down, since heavy tanks are much easier to farm if you have decent penetration. And it's not even like you are sacrificing your win rate in order to gain some average damage. No, by gaining average damage your win rate will also go up. I mean, just look at my statistics, for example. Both of those statistics are extremely high in my case, and if you start doing what I'm telling you to do, then yours will improve as well. Let's stick to the topic of gameplay tips, more importantly, positioning, situational awareness and survival. Situational awareness is going to be the most important skill in this game, because battles usually last between 2 to 3 minutes, therefore you need to think quickly about where you want to go. Generally speaking, the early game should be about you taking a position that's appropriate for your skill level, so if you are a beginner, then I recommend playing a little bit more passively. However, if you know what you are doing, aggressive play might be the way to go. The point is that you should be able to do 3 to 4 shots of damage without losing HP, or mitigating your HP loss as much as you can. What that's gonna do is that it's gonna put you at an early advantage, while still giving you lots of HP to work with in the later parts of the game. The mid game is either going to be the most action-packed or the least action-packed. part of the battle, depending on the nature of that given battle. This is where you will either start trading your HP away, or you will still do the same thing that you were doing at the beginning, so just keeping HP and farming damage. Again, this highly depends on the nature of the battle. However, you still want to keep as much HP as possible, especially if you see an opportunity for late game farming. Because late game farming should be about you playing as aggressively as possible, because by this point you should have saved a lot of HP for yourself, and you should be sitting at a decent, moderate amount of damage, so you still want to do more. However, if you don't have HP, then of course you won't be able to do more damage. A decent survival rate, in my opinion, is above 50%. Good players usually achieve over 60%. However, improving your survival rate by even a few percent is already a great result, of course. Anything below 50%, however, is definitely on the lower end. You should definitely work on improving that first. And the way you achieve that is, of course, as I said already, by taking positions which are appropriate for your skill level. And I'm guessing that in case your survival rate is below 50%, you should probably be playing more passively, just to avoid taking unnecessary shots. So this battle, for example, is perfect for demonstrating everything that I've been talking about so far. I still have over half of my HP here. I'm against 4 tanks and I've done 5.2k damage in the Leo one. You saw what I did in this battle, so I went to the heavy flank to farm some heavies without taking damage. Then I went back to snipe from a great sniping position, which gave me a little bit of damage. You know, it wasn't the most action-packed mid-game, but now I have quite a bit of HP left and I'm in a pretty dangerous situation because there are 3 tanks against me. However, as you can see, I managed to deal with the situation quite effectively. I get a low roll here, unfortunately, and this is what's going to cause my death in this battle. The next piece of advice that nobody really talks about is mitigating your bad games. In case you made a mistake at the start and lost a lot of HP, there is still some hope for you in case you are playing a fast tank. Now, if you're playing a heavy tank, you probably won't be able to run away, but if you're playing the Leo, like in the example shown here, you can still go next to the red line and just snipe. Like in this game, I was still able to do 3.5k damage, even though we made a huge mistake at the start. Having a 2500 damage game as your worst game instead of having a 500 damage game as your worst game makes a huge difference. Lastly, I have 3 additional tips which should also help you improve quite a lot. The first one is that you should play between 20 and 30 battles each session, which allows you to still progress at a decent rate while avoiding burning out and tilting all the time. The second one is that you shouldn't blame your team all the time. Instead, if you have a bad game, you should rewatch the replay and look for your own mistakes. I see so many people blaming their team for every single mistake that they made, and honestly, it just doesn't make too much sense to me. Lastly, watching pro players can also help you quite a lot, especially if you are watching live streams. The players who I recommend watching are His Royal Fatness, Nino, and potentially Drudos as well in case you want to improve. Or just watch Peter KEKW, which is probably your best option. That being said, this was the guide for today. Let me know what you thought about it, and also let me know what you want to see next.